Could you just adjust the angle a bit? That's it. Yeah, that's perfect. So sorry for your loss.
I'm sorry, but I thought you said there'd been another murder. Henry? Henry does not count as a murder. But it's an inanimate object. You can't murder an inanimate object. If you could, then I have murdered a lot of tortoises. So, why are you all looking at me like that?
Does setting fire to a dummy count as murder?
No. They gave me a discount at the crematorium because he was already half done. I used to think if I was an ice cream, I would be tutti-frutti because nobody likes me. But Henry made me feel like rum and raisin. We don't make sense if you stop and think about it, but we're perfect together. Or at least we were. I know who killed Henry. And I know who killed Keith Flapp.
Madison, before Detective Cranness was poisoned, he searched your office.
Without a warrant, meaning any evidence he found is completely...
What he found was a bottle of Tesco Value single malt with a sell-by date of December 99, hidden under your floorboards, with your fingerprints on the bottle. This is not the actual bottle, I'm just handing it to you for dramatic effect.
Okay, so?
So they tested the contents and...
The results confirm the presence of a very potent, fast-acting poison.
Same poison used to kill Richard Brent. Again, this is just a prop we had made up, but these are the real lab results.
So, this is proof I tried to save his life? Keeping poison away from someone is usually considered a life-saving thing to do. Do I get a medal?
Okay, let's say you were trying to save him, but Keith was stabbed. So why take the bottle? Why try and hide it from the police? Unless...
Let me ask you a question. Why would I keep the bottle? That would be very irrational.
I mean, so would murder.
True. Or maybe this evidence incriminates the true mastermind. The poison in the whiskey. Who do you think it came from?
Gelsemium only grows in remote parts of Asia and in the greenhouse of Dr. Annabelle Flapp-Delaney. Dizziness, convulsions, paralysis, asphyxia, nausea, and death. Oh. Why, yes, I grow this here. Been working on the antidote for years. Fun fact, Arthur Conan Doyle tested gelsemium on himself. But unlike this little Sherlock, he stopped before he took it too far.
So you know why I'm asking then?
I haven't the foggiest, darling.
I admit that I delivered the whiskey, and I knew it was poisoned. But the truth is, I was coerced by Annabelle. She invited me over the day of the show, then told me she'd poisoned my tea. and would only give me the antidote if I killed Keith for her. And that's why I kept the bottle.
Of course she did. I always feared that she would do this to me one day. Implicate me in her evil crime. But the truth is, Madison coerced me into giving her the gelsemium. Well, she came over and told me that if I didn't give her the poison, she would do to me what she did to Kurt Cobain. And that's what she wanted to do to Keith. It was all about
the money for her. Keith left everything to Fungo in his will, but Fungo hadn't been left to anyone, which meant Annabelle would inherit Fungo. Poor Keith. All that alcohol and tragedy had rotted his little brain.
And that was making him a liability for Madison. She wanted to kill Keith, profit from his legacy, and manage Fungo as a solo artist. Don't you see? She was
the mastermind. I was a helpless
pawn in her twisted game. She
wanted me to do the dirty work. She told me how much she hated Keith's guts, and with Keith out of the way, she'd have Fungo
and be rich. But
she didn't expect was for God knows who to come in and
stab Keith the very same night, turning what would have
looked like a tragic, self-inflicted alcohol poisoning
into a murder investigation. Not to mention
the killer taking Fungo from the scene as well, completely ruining her
whole plan, which was such a relief.
Because I didn't want to kill my favourite
husband, just so I could be free of his
frustrating,
pathetic,
self-sabotaging
behaviour and make a lot of
money from his death. So don't you see? I'm
the real victim here. I mean, apart from Keith, of course.
You do believe me, don't you?
Not really. It seems pretty obvious that the two of you are working together so you could both profit from Keith's death, and now you're just trying to throw your accomplice under the bus.
Because you want to know who took Fungo and to get your hands on Keith's fortune.
What? Is there something on my...
You're having a joke with me, right? Sorry. How is hollowing out a tortoise any different from like trimming a hedge or having mold removed from your bathroom? They're all technically alive, sure, but they don't move. They don't move. I never saw them move, okay?
Thank you for changing your mind.
Yes, well, I heard about Annabelle, and I knew her very well. I'd rummaged through her bins, put together a bit of a profile, try and figure out what Keith found attractive about her so I could become... Anyway, never mind. So now you know that it was Madison who killed Keith and killed everyone else and took Fungo. So there'll be no more wild insinuendos about my involvement.
Well, if Madison had taken Fungo, he wouldn't have gone missing. He'd be on TV right now. So I still think someone got there before she did, stabbed Keith in the chest, and then took the dummy.
Who else even is there? I mean, apart from me, who didn't do it?
I would have happily let Madison Skirmish poison me and turn me into a successful dead ventriloquist. But no, it had to be Keith. But hey, if the poison's what You asphyxiated him. That means no one strangled him, right? That's ruled out now? No one snuck into his dressing room and put their hands around his neck. I bet the poison caused the neck bruises too. The finger-shaped ones.
No. To pull off a murder like Keith's, you need creativity, timing, a body carved from the timber of a haunted ghost ship.
Can you please just take this seriously? Fungo is just a doll.
Okay.
Speaking of murders, Henry Dedson was set on fire a few nights ago. According to the insurance report, he'd been doused in white spirit.
Such a tragic waste.
Are you talking about the dummy or the white spirit?
Both.
So who do you think stabbed Keith?
Stabbing someone is like breaking a dog's legs. It's a crime of passion. The person who killed Keith and killed my Henry didn't plan in advance. They just don't know how to control themselves, like a dummy without a ventriloquist. And I think that person was Darren Wound.
Fuck Keith. Marry Fungo. Kill Henry. Oh, actually, that's a great question, actually, isn't it? Are you asking everyone that? Look, that is genius, because whoever says kill Keith, that's your murderer, right?
This was at the Keith Flapp fan club AGM. Me and Darren back then, we were like Haagen-Dazs, rum, salted caramel and biscuit. We were great. But for a limited time only. Because when I met Henry, after what Keith did to him, I couldn't call myself a fan anymore. Darren wasn't happy. Looking back, I think he felt threatened by how close me and Henry had got. One time, he said he didn't like how my hand was always in Henry, because he missed holding it. I tried to point out my other hand was available, but I couldn't point to my other hand because of Henry. Then, out of the blue one day, he got us tickets to ventriloquist, front row centre. Insisted me and Henry come with him. Darren was twitchy, nervous for the entire first half. Then at the interval, he dashes off, doesn't say where he's going, didn't come back. As we all know, the second half never happened.
You think Darren killed Keith for you?
I don't think he meant to. I think Darren was planning to steal Fungo, leave Keith dummyless right in the middle of the show. Think about it. We were front row. Keith would have seen Henry on my lap. Fungo's one of a kind. He can't replace him. He needs a dummy right then and there. He'd have to call Henry up on stage to join him. An impromptu, magical reunion. The fans would have loved it. I would have loved it. But my guess is Keith caught him in the dressing room. There was a struggle. It wouldn't be the first time Darren stabbed someone he loved.
Back in the 80s, I worked at Wonderland Paris. It was my job to wear a white rabbit costume and run around a theme park saying, "I'm late, I'm late." I thought it would be easy, but tous les jours, whenever the children noticed I had stopped running to, catch my breath or whatever, they would get very angry with me and they would scream, "No, you are late, run!" And they would chase me. The costume was too big for me, so I could not see very well or run very fast, and inevitably I would fall over. And they would jump on me and punch me, kick me. Sometimes they would grab the
the bread knife from the Mad Hatter's tea party and stabbed me in the belly. I told my manager, hoping he would do something about it. And what he did was start selling Mad Hatter knives in the souvenir shop next to the Queen of Hearts costumes. The knives were real and sharp. You get used to it, you know. Children are cruel. But this one time, this 6-year-old boy, Darren, there was something dark about him. He was violent, of course, they all were, but as he stabbed me over and over, he kept whispering in my big floppy ear how much he adores the White Rabbit, how I was his favorite, how he was obsessed with me, how he wanted us to be together forever and ever and ever. I had to quit after that, you know, too sinister, even for me. A few months later, I get a phone call from Broadmoor Hospital in England. I fly over in my White Rabbit costume. They let you keep it once a certain % of your blood has soaked in. They put me in a little room with Darren, give him a plastic knife with a blade that goes into the handle. And they told him to stab me as many times as he likes until he gets bored. 14 hours until he stopped. And afterwards, I took off my mask and I said simply, I am not a rabbit. And the look on his face, you could tell the thought had not even occurred to him. If it were up to me, I would have thrown away the key. Not because he is crazy, I just really hate keys.
After Keith died, Darren never even spoke to me again. I bet it was the guilt. And now you're doing your documentary and he doesn't want to get caught. I think he killed Henry to keep me stum. You want proof it's him? I bet he's still got fungo hidden somewhere. In his house.
I've always had this theory that whoever killed Keith had some kind of obsession with his act and kept the doll as some kind of sick memento.
You find fungo, you find your killer, right?
Fuck Keith. Marry Fungo. Kill Henry. Oh, actually, that's a great question, actually, isn't it? Are you asking everyone that?
Fucking hell.
That is genius, because whoever says kill Keith, that's your murderer, right?
Darren, in our last interview, you didn't want to tell us who you went to the show with, but we've since found out it was Susan Finangle. She gave us her account of the night and she told us about Broadmoor.
Broadmoor? Of course she told you about Broadmoor, because I must be the murderer if I have a track record of attempted murder, right?
I mean, no.
You realise that the whole point of a mental hospital is to make you get better. They wouldn't have let me leave if they thought I was still likely to murder anyone, would they? You're taking Susan Finangle's word that I'm crazy. Look at her. The whole relationship with Henry, it's like something out of a Stephen King book. It's creepy, it's self-indulgent, it's been going on way too long, and the more you think about it, the less it makes sense. Henry wanted Keith dead. He made no secret of that, and Susan would do anything to keep that stupid dummy happy instead of her real flesh and blood friend who only wanted his fan club treasurer back. I didn't have a motive to kill Keith, but Susan did, and so did Henry. What was that?
I think it's just someone using the box.
No!
Darren!
No, it's good! You don't have a warrant! I need a lawyer!
It's in the box, Darren.
Okay, I admit it. Is that what you want? Not to killing Keith. I would never. Susan and Henry were the ones who snuck off first, not me. They were gone for like 40 minutes, and when Susan came back, she didn't have Henry with her, but she wasn't worried. And then she made some sort of comment about being dead excited for the second half. I had to warn Keith. I had to stop whatever they were planning on doing from happening, and then he would lift a restraining order on me and insist that I always protect him from anyone who would ever try and hurt him, and we would be friends.
So you snuck backstage?
I always carry Tipp-Ex on me for emergencies. But when I got there, I was too late. There was Keith, stabbed in the chest, and Fungo was sat on his lap holding the knife in his little hand.
Fungo was there after Keith was stabbed.
That's how I knew it was Susan. She was trying to frame Fungo for Keith's murder, ruin his reputation. I had to take Fungo for Keith.
Darren, if Fungo's in that box...
I know how it looks, but come on, look, Susan is clearly deranged, and I spent 2 years in Broadmoor, all right? I know what deranged looks like.
If you're telling the truth, Darren, we will get to the bottom of this. I promise. Just open the box.
Oh my, what the fuck?
Hello?
Hello, Esther. It's Fungo! I tried asking you to stop, but clearly you'd rather keep letting people die than give up your little documentary. So, if you really want to know who the killer is, how would you like an exclusive interview with me?